However, on this week's parsha is Parshat Chukat, in which many different actions occurred to Bnei Israel. Though we'll give a quick synopsis and we'll look at how the Ramban understands one particular situation in the parsha, which is the נחשת that Moshe makes in order to heal Bnei Israel after they are struck by a plague of fiery serpents that bite them. Okay, now to get to there, we're going to first discuss how the parsha starts off. We're going to divide the parsha into the three parakim it is, Yotet, Chaf, and Chaf Aleph. And in Yotet, we read about the Chukat, the chukah of the parsha, the chok, something that is unexplainable by human terms. And that itself is the paraduma, in which we read about for the whole entire parak. And then we go on to parak Chaf, which discusses the fact that Bnei Israel moves on, and Miriam dies while during these travels. Miriam, unfortunately, passes away. She is buried. Bnei Israel, in a sense, bemoans her the loss of Miriam, and they stay. And then we go into the whole entire discussion of Mei Meriva, where there is no water. Bnei Israel complains. Moshe, of course, famously hits the rock. And there's a whole lot of discussion on that scene itself. But after that, we come and see Aaron's death. And finally, we see Bnei Israel's travels and the scene of נחשת, Bnei Israel complaining, and they are punished by fiery serpents through God. They are bitten, and many die. And those who look at the serpent that is נחשת, that is made out of copper, this idol of sorts, they are healed. And the Ramban will discuss that scene at length. And at the end of the parsha discusses Bnei Israel's further travels and Sichel Melech Mori, as well as the continuation with Og, Melech Bashan, and Bnei Israel. The Midrash says Moshe, and their destruction of those nations, and their entering into the very edge of the land. That's how we end off the parsha and Parak Bet. Okay, now let's go back to our topic of discussion, which is the Ramban's commentary on Pasuk Tet over here. The Pasuk there reads, V'yas Moshe nachash nechoshet, v'yisimeu al hanis, v'ya im nashach hanachash et ish, v'yibit al nachash hanachoshet v'chai. Moshe created this Nachash Nechoshet. Now, right away, this wordplay, the Ramban notes that, quoting Rashi quotes the Midrash, saying that this is only, so to speak, a play on words. Lo namar lo lasoto shel nechoshet. Hashem did not tell Moshe to make it out of copper. El amar Moshe HaKadosh Baruch Hu, amar li nachash. Moshe reasons himself, Hashem said for me to create a nachash. Ani esenu shel nechoshet. Lashon novel al halashon. Famously, lashon novel al halashon. It's a wordplay. Nachash and נחשת, they both sound similar. However, we understand this. That's how Rashi understands this, quoting the Midrash. The Ramban, however, disagrees. Rashi is quoting there, Mediv Rabbeinu, Bereshit Rabba Lam Aleph Chet. The Ramban says, "Below heavy note dizeh. Sharei HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo iskilo nachash el aseh lechas saraf." The Ramban notes that really the command, if we look back earlier, is to say aseh lechas saraf. Saraf and Nechoshet are different words. Saraf and Nachash are different words, sorry. Saraf does not sound like Nechoshet. Nachash sounds like Nechoshet. And yes, there is the words Nachash, Nechoshet, but Hashem tells Moshe, Saraf. That's what we read in Pasuk Chet before that. Now, it's very interesting. We're going to see the Ramban. He gives a whole entire long explanation in his medical science and terms, defining that when someone normally gets bitten by something, based off the Gemara and Yoma Pedalid, that normally someone who has this sort of, we call it this malady, whatever, sickness that befalls him, and let's say he gets bit by a dog or something along those lines, or bitten by a snake, there is something that will sort of speak, that will emerge out, and he will be able to reflect on this punishment, on this whatever was afflicted towards him, and he will, in a sense, reflect this whatever was hidden by him. So, in a sense, when someone got bitten by a snake, if they're looking at a snake, it would damage them further, the Ramban writes. And the Ramban writes, if someone who gets bitten by a rabid dog, the Ramban writes, based off the science, that one who gets bitten by a rabid dog, if they were to collect a urine sample from this person and they would examine it, they would see that there are small images of klavim tanim. Now, the Ramban normally says, based off this, that in the normal way of science, that he understood it, that anyone who saw something, this is what the Ramban writes, who saw and was bitten by something, whatever it may be, that was reflected somehow in the person himself, and it would further show this malady, this sickness, this illness that befell him. Now, what happens here, the Ramban writes? The Ramban writes specifically that the reason why Moshe created Nachash Nechoshet was because this Nachash Nechoshet is representing what Hashem commanded him to do, to Selech Saraf. It was representing a Saraf. Why? What does a Saraf mean in a sense? A fiery serpent, Saraf. כל זה כך, ראוי הישראל נשוכי נחשים asrafim, שלא יראו נחש, ולא יזכרו ולא יעלו על לב כלל. Because those Bnei Yisrael should have stuck away from any sort of nachash. After they were bitten, they should have fully ran away. They shouldn't have been reminded of this. They shouldn't have been looking at any sort of nachashim. However, that would be the normal way of things. That would further damage them. What happens here? The very thing that killed them. That was what Hashem commanded Moshe to construct. These sort of fiery serpents have red, fiery eyes in their width of their necks and the back of their heads, or so to speak. There's a snake called the copperhead, and it almost is like a coppery sense when you look at a snake on its back of its neck over there. Therefore, more specifically built a נחש נחושת, which would represent the seraph as God commanded him. And that's why specifically Moshe made it out of copper to show it's a seraph, not a regular nachash. That which the Rashi is quoting the Midrash about. By the very fact that Hashem commanded him to do this, that is what's the main strength of this. Hashem has this famous principle where he's showing this is a complete miracle. I'm telling Moshe to make the very thing that should damage you more, a seraph, the thing that bit you, the very thing that injured you, that caused this sickness to spread amongst the nation. Through that specifically, you will be healed. And that is the message Ramban is telling us. That it's specifically through following God's command over here. They're simply just looking at the Nachash Nechoshet, which resembles the seraph that bit them. The very thing that damaged them, only there. That's the biggest miracle. And that is that the Ramban believes is the message of this entire narrative. That these couple psukim here describing Bnei Yisrael's complaining and subsequent punishment of the seraphim and the creation of the Nachash Nechoshet, which resembling the seraph to show Bnei Yisrael that specifically God is the one controlling this. God is the one that will bring you into the land. This is the theme the Ramban elaborated on the past couple of parashot, ever since Parshat Balotcha, through Shalach, through Korach. This essence of following the Aron, just following God's commands. By even so Ha'aron, by Moshe, your enemies will be scattered. Just simply follow the Aron. And that is command that perhaps the Ramban is revealing here as well. Yes, there are many things that we unexplained. There are certain chukot that we don't understand. Yet there's a simple ability to follow them. And that's the process in the Midbar, in a sense. Ramban maybe is revealing to us that Bnei Yisrael simply has to follow the proper path in order to become a nation. They have to learn how to become a nation. They have to be able to follow this proper path. And once they do that, then they can enter the land. They have to learn their lessons. But first, they just have to learn what it means to follow these commands. And then they'll be prepared. It will take 40 years in the Midbar. And this is part of the lessons that they learn on the way as they're approaching the edge of the land. And that is one of the chukot of the parashot. Something that does not make sense. The Ramban makes some sense out of it to show this parallel message of simply following the Aron, following God's commands in order for Bnei Yisrael to become a nation. And if that message of just simply following God's commands, it could bring some sort of message to us all, to simply having that simple amunah, that sort of sense of trust and belief. And with that, to bring the Bnei Yisrael to the land of Israel, hopefully very soon. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.